Every team, every topic, everywhere. This is Believe.
To enjoy this episode ad-free, please visit patreon.com/forensictales.
Forensic Tales discusses topics that some listeners may find disturbing. The contents of this episode may not be suitable for everyone. Listener discretion is advised.
On November 7th, 2007, at 6:10 a.m., a frantic 911 call shattered the quiet morning in a suburban Florida community. Adam Kaufman had just found his 33-year-old wife, Lina, lying lifeless on the bathroom floor. Pink foam seeped from her mouth. Strange marks covered her body. How could a seemingly healthy young woman suddenly die overnight? As investigators searched for answers, her husband offered a startling explanation, one that would become known as one of the most bizarre murder defenses ever presented in court. Welcome to Forensic Tales. I'm your host, Courtney Fretwell. Before we jump in, I wanted to mention that today's episode is a little different. This is one of the most fascinating cases we've ever covered on Forensic Tales. It originally aired back in 2023, but it's continued to attract listeners ever since. So I decided it deserved a fresh telling. I've completely re-recorded and updated the episode with improved narration, refreshed production, and any relevant updates so new listeners and longtime fans can experience the best version of this incredible case. If you enjoy deep dives into real cases and the science behind them, make sure you're subscribed so you never miss an episode. And if you want even more content, including monthly full-length bonus episodes and early ad-free access to over 300 episodes, you can join our community over on Patreon. The support there truly helps keep this show going. To learn more, visit patreon.com/forensictales. And one small favor that makes a huge difference for the show. If you're enjoying Forensic Tales, please consider leaving a positive review on Apple Podcasts or Spotify. It really helps other listeners discover the podcast. On November 7th, 2007, at 6:10 in the morning, a frantic call came into the police department in Aventura, Florida, an upper-class suburban community outside of Miami. The caller, Adam Kaufman, told dispatchers that he had just woken up and discovered his wife, Lina Kaufman, slumped over on the bathroom floor and wasn't breathing. He said she was cold to the touch and pink foam was coming out of her nose and mouth. He claimed to have no idea what happened to his wife, but he said she had strange marks on her neck he had never seen before and thought she might already be dead. While police raced to Kaufman's house, the dispatcher instructed Adam to perform mouth-to-mouth on her. So he took his wife's body out of the bathroom and into the bedroom where he had more room. About 10 minutes later, the paramedics arrived and took over, but they were too late. About an hour after Adam initially called for help, his wife died at the hospital. 35-year-old Adam Kaufman was well known throughout this upper-middle-class suburban neighborhood of Aventura, Florida. He and his wife, 33-year-old Eleonora, who went by Lina, had lived there for several years. Adam had a successful real estate business and was the kind of guy you went to if you were looking to purchase a home in this part of the state. So it was only fitting that Adam and Lina owned a lovely upscale home in the area. In 1997, Adam and Lina met through mutual friends at a party and instantly hit it off. The two started dating, and by the early 2000s, they were married and had 2 children together, Haley and Jake. At the time of Lina's death in 2007, Haley was 5 and Jake was only 2. And Lina and Adam had been married for 7 years. They had what looked like the picture-perfect life together, the kind of life most people only dream of. None of their family or friends ever recalled them fighting or having any trouble getting along. They had money. They lived in a nice, manicured home. They have 2 beautiful kids. Lina didn't grow up like your typical kid. Her childhood and upbringing could only be described as fortunate and adventurous. Lina, her brother, and their parents moved around a lot when they were young, and throughout her childhood, they lived in 5 different countries. So Lina and her brother learned to speak 5 languages: English, Danish, Flemish, Hebrew, and some Italian. Everyone who knew her, either as a kid or an adult, described her as extremely intelligent. They also described her as hardworking and easy to get along with. Anyone who met Lina liked her from the get-go. She just had a special spark that drew people to her. So it was no wonder someone like Adam would be attracted to Lina. In November 2007, Lina was only 33 years old and in seemingly perfect health. She didn't have any known medical conditions, and she always ate healthy and exercised. She also didn't drink alcohol, and besides smoking a few cigarettes every once in a while, she took really good care of herself. So when she turned up dead on the bathroom floor, no one could explain why. Her death didn't make any sense. A 33-year-old healthy woman can't suddenly die. The day before her death, Lina left the house sometime in the afternoon to get a spray tan. Adam's twin brother, Seth, was getting married in a few days, and both Adam and Lina were in the wedding party. Adam was his brother's best man, and Lina was a bridesmaid. So Lina left to get a spray tan to get some color for the wedding. This was the first ever spray tan she had gotten. After getting the spray tan, she went to a girlfriend's house for lunch, where she spent most of the afternoon and didn't return home until around 11 o'clock that night. But Adam was already asleep by the time she got home. Sometime around 5 o'clock in the morning on November 7th, Adam said he woke up and noticed his wife wasn't lying next to him in bed. He said he sat there for a bit, thinking she might have gone to check on one of the kids. The kids were only 2 and 5, so maybe one was up crying. So Adam said he lay in bed briefly, waiting for Lina to return, but she didn't. After lying in bed for about an hour, Adam decided to get up and look for her. The first place he checked was both of the kids' rooms, but she wasn't in either one. So he went to check the bathroom, and that's when he said he discovered her lying on the floor with pink foam coming out of her mouth. He said her body was slumped over a leather magazine rack beside the toilet. And at first, he almost thought she was kneeling over the toilet like she had been throwing up. But when he knelt on the ground and touched her back to see if she was okay, her skin was already cold. And when he turned her over, he saw the strange marks on her neck. He said he could see a total of 4 marks, 2 on the right side of her neck and 2 on the left. But before he thought to call for help, he called his twin brother, Seth, instead. Before the police had even arrived at the house, Seth and his fiancée were already there. They lived right down the street, so when Adam called to tell them what happened, they threw on some clothes and drove straight to the house. Immediately after Lina was transported to the hospital, the police began investigating the scene. Their first assumption was that she had some type of medical emergency, but they still needed to do their due diligence. As the investigators looked around the house, red flags immediately began popping up. Michael Castro, one of the first responders, thought Adam's behavior seemed a little strange. For someone who had suddenly lost their wife, he seemed completely calm one minute, but then hysterical the next. The second red flag was Adam's story about where exactly Lina's body was when he found her. According to paramedic Kimberly Burke, Adam told her his wife was slumped over the toilet when he found her. But when he was at the hospital, he said she was slumped over the leather magazine rack beside the toilet. Maybe this was simply an innocent mistake, or he accidentally misspoke. Either way, Kimberly Burke thought it odd that he would say he found her body two different ways. Was it the toilet or the magazine rack? The next suspicion was sparked by the car in the driveway. When the police arrived at the house, Adam's Mercedes-Benz was parked in the driveway, and when one of the police officers touched it, the hood was warm, as if the engine had been recently turned on. The officer also heard clicking sounds, as if the engine had been turned off moments ago. This was a problem because a recently driven car didn't align with Adam's story. He said he was sleeping when he realized his wife wasn't lying beside him. He didn't say anything about driving his Mercedes. Finally, there was a report about what Adam was wearing at the scene. According to two firefighters who responded to the scene, Adam was fully dressed in regular clothes when they arrived, and only one side of the bed appeared to have been slept in. How could this be if he was supposedly sleeping before he called for help? Who sleeps fully dressed? Despite some early suspicions about Adam, there wasn't anything investigators could do about him. They knew it seemed strange that a healthy woman suddenly died in the bathroom. And they also knew it was weird for him to be fully dressed and that his car's hood was warm. But that's not nearly enough evidence to arrest someone. And besides, one fundamental question remained. How did Lina Kaufman die? Over the next 18 months, Adam made repeated phone calls to the Dade County Medical Examiner's office, wanting to find out what happened to his wife, but each time he called, they kept saying they were waiting on test results. That meant that all Adam and his family could do was speculate about what killed her. And so the infamous spray tan theory emerged. According to Adam, the day before his wife died, she got her first ever spray tan. So he wondered if that could have had anything to do with her death. She had never gotten one before, so maybe a chemical or a toxin in the spray tan mixture caused her to pass out and die in the bathroom. It sounded bizarre and crazy, but that was the only other thing Lina did differently the day before she died. After she got the tan, she had lunch at her girlfriend's house and stayed there until about 11 o'clock that night. And according to her friend, Lina seemed fine at her house. She didn't say anything was wrong with her, and Lina never complained about not feeling well. The only difference was the spray tan. Lina's friends and family felt the same way. They weren't aware of any medical condition that would cause her to suddenly die. And the only thing that seemed to be going on between her and Adam was about the upcoming wedding. According to her friends, she was upset that Adam was walking down the aisle with the maid of honor rather than her, even though she was also a bridesmaid. But the spray tan and upcoming wedding weren't the only events going on in Lina and Adam's lives. Less than 1 month after she died, there was another woman in Adam's life. His wife of 7 years hadn't been dead for a month yet, and he was already dating someone new. Over the next 18 months, Adam could only speculate about what happened to his wife. Could the spray tan really be responsible for his wife's death? And during those 18 long months, he kept calling the medical examiner's office with no answers. It wasn't until a fateful day in April 2009 that the long-awaited revelation came. In April 2009, the Dade County Medical Examiner announced that they had ruled on Lina's cause of death, and the ruling completely shocked everyone. According to the medical examiner, she didn't have a freak medical emergency like everyone thought. Based on her autopsy results, the experts believed she was murdered. and her official manner of death was ruled a homicide. The announcement shocked the community. No one could believe it. And if she really had been murdered, the next question became, who killed her? That's the moment when all eyes instantly focused on her husband, Adam Kaufman. After Lina's death, 2 autopsies were conducted. One was performed immediately, and the second a few months later. The first autopsy was inconclusive, and her death was ruled undetermined. But the second was much different. Based on his examination of Lina's body, the second medical examiner believed she died from mechanical asphyxiation. In other words, someone or something caused her to stop breathing. And if you asked the Dade County investigators what they believed caused her to stop breathing, it was her husband, Adam. Immediately following the April 2009 announcement that Lina's cause of death was mechanical asphyxiation and the manner of death was homicide, Adam was arrested and charged with murder. Once he was arrested and put in jail, he and Lina's 2 kids, Haley and Jake, went to stay with Adam's family. And fortunately for Adam, he had the resources to afford 2 excellent defense attorneys. One was a former police officer turned defense lawyer, and the other was a former prosecutor. So as far as defense lawyers go, he had a dream team. 2 months after his arrest, he had a bond hearing before a judge. And at the hearing, his attorneys argued that Lina had suffered from fainting spells and talked about the recent spray tan. So Adam's attorneys had come up with a theory about what caused Lina's death. She had an allergic reaction to the spray tan. They also argued the bruises and abrasions they found on her body were caused by her falling and hitting the leather magazine rack next to the toilet in the bathroom. Miami-Dade County prosecutor Kathleen Hogue laughed at this defense theory, but laughable or not, Adam was released on a $500,000 bond. The judge ordered him to wear a location tracking monitor on his ankle, and he was allowed to stay home while he and his attorney prepared for trial. It would take 3 years, but by May 2012, Adam's second-degree murder trial began. Prosecutors would allege he killed his wife by choking her to death in the bathroom that morning. But Adam's defense attorneys would argue she died from something medical, like a deadly allergic reaction to the spray tan. But despite the prosecution and defense's different theories, the trial wouldn't be decided on theories alone. It would be decided on the forensic evidence. The forensic experts for each side would argue about what happened to Lina. The prosecution opened up by having the first responders testify about what they observed in the house that morning in 2007. Most testified that they found Adam's behavior suspicious. First responder Michael Castro testified that he seemed calm 1 minute but hysterical the next. He thought that his emotions seemed forced, as if he were hiding something. Paramedic Kimberly Burke testified about his differing stories about where he found Lina's body. She said that Adam said his wife was slumped over the toilet at the house, but later on he changed his story and said she was slumped over the magazine rack. Dr. John Stollard, the emergency room doctor who worked on Lina, also testified. He said he found strange marks and injuries on her neck, and when he asked Adam about them, he said she probably got them from the magazine rack. All of this was the prosecution's attempt to show that Adam was acting erratically when first responders arrived, including by changing his story about what happened. Prosecutors also discussed what Adam wore when they showed up at the house. They called 2 firefighters to the stand, and both testified that they recalled him being fully dressed. And they thought this was odd because it was a little after 6 o'clock in the morning, and Adam said he was in bed just a few minutes ago. The firefighters also testified to the jury that only one side of the bed appeared to have been slept in. The police officers who touched Adam's Mercedes-Benz parked in the driveway told jurors that the car's hood was warm when he arrived, and the engine was ticking like it had been recently driven. Another troubling moment because Adam never mentioned anything about driving or using the car that morning. None of this looked good for Adam. His car might have been driven recently. He was fully dressed. He changed his story about where exactly he found her. He had a bizarre theory about a possible allergic reaction to a spray tan, and he started dating another woman less than 1 month after Lina died. Prosecutors referred to Adam's case as Casey Anthony getting a tattoo because he moved on from his wife so quickly. But according to Adam, this relationship was to help him get out of the house after Lina died. He said his twin brother, Seth, encouraged him to leave the house and date someone. He said he met the woman at a graduation party, and shortly after that, they went on a first date together. But what about a motive? What did the prosecution present, and why? According to the prosecution, they had been fighting and arguing that night about a possible affair, and then the argument turned physical, and Adam choked her to death in the bathroom. Adam's defense lawyers immediately objected to the prosecution's story about what happened. According to them, there was absolutely no evidence that he was having an affair before Lina died. And without evidence of an affair, that theory should be thrown out and not used against him. They even asked the judge for a mistrial. But instead of dismissing the case altogether, the judge ordered the jury to forget about the prosecution's theory about an affair. Furthermore, the prosecution wasn't allowed to bring up a possible affair before Lina's death again during the trial. Forensic experts for both the state and defense were called to testify, and everyone seemed to have a different opinion about how she could have died. Dr. Bruce Haima, Miami-Dade's chief medical examiner, testified for the prosecution. He was the one who ruled Lina's death a homicide due to mechanical asphyxiation. Dr. Haima told the jury that based on the autopsy results, she was murdered by someone or something cutting off her airway. He also explained that the only way she could have gotten the marks and bruises on her neck, shoulders, and chest was if someone was strangling her. In other words, this type of mechanical asphyxiation could have only happened at the hands of someone else. Dr. Bruce Haima's testimony was also backed up by his former associate medical examiner, who supervised the original autopsy, Dr. Satish Chandru. He testified that he also agreed with Dr. Haima's findings of a homicide. He attributed her death to strangulation and thought the injuries to her neck were consistent with someone putting their hands around her neck. He couldn't come up with any other explanation for her death or injuries. The only plausible explanation was homicide. But Adam's defense had its own medical witnesses, and they argued a completely different explanation. One of their expert witnesses was Dr. John Maricchini, a Harvard Medical School graduate and pathologist from South Miami, Florida, with over 20 years of experience. He told the jury that he didn't believe Lina's injuries supported a homicide finding, and according to him, he had his theory about what might have killed Lina, an undiagnosed heart condition. He testified that when he looked over Lina's autopsy results, he discovered a rather large and notable scar on her heart and wondered why the original medical examiner didn't examine it further. So based on what he saw, Dr. Maricchini believed some type of disease occurred in Lina's heart, causing the scar. He also said she had myocarditis or inflammation of the heart, which may have caused her to unknowingly develop an irregular heartbeat. And that morning in November 2007, she collapsed and died in the bathroom from this undiagnosed heart condition. But Dr. Maricchini wasn't alone in this finding. The defense had a second forensic expert who supported his theory. Dr. Michael Baden also testified on behalf of Adam's defense. Dr. Baden is a name you've likely heard before because he's a famous board-certified forensic pathologist who has testified in several high-profile cases, including the O.J. Simpson double murder trial and the assassinations of John F. Kennedy and Martin Luther King Jr. At trial, he agreed with Dr. Maricini, telling the jury he thought Lina died from a pre-existing natural acute and chronic myocarditis. But what exactly is myocarditis? According to the American Heart Association's website, chronic myocarditis can weaken the heart and its electrical system, resulting in affected blood flow, and the condition worsens if left untreated. Although myocarditis is considered a rare heart condition, it does occur in seemingly otherwise healthy adults. So Adam's expert forensic witnesses argued that's probably what happened to Lina. She had a scar on her heart that resembled myocarditis. The failing of her heart killed her. The prosecution and defense also had contrasting theories about the strange marks on her neck. The prosecution's experts alleged the marks on her neck came from being strangled. But the defense argued the marks had nothing to do with strangulation. Instead, they might have come from the leather magazine rack beside the toilet. According to the defense, if Lina suffered a heart attack from her undiagnosed myocarditis, she might have collapsed and landed on the magazine rack. Unfortunately, only the magazine rack itself was collected and retained in evidence, not the actual magazines. So when it was tested for forensic evidence, the results came back inconclusive, leaving a question mark as to whether the marks on her neck came from the rack or not. Besides expert forensic testimony, the witness stand was also filled with emotional testimony. Lina's mom, Frida Aisman, testified at trial, but her testimony was surprising because what she said on the stand didn't align with the prosecutors. Instead, her testimony supported the defense's theory. She said that her daughter would often become dizzy and suffer what she described as fainting spells starting when she was just a child. She said she would often become very dizzy while standing up and have to sit down until she felt better. In one particular incident, Lina was grocery shopping with Adam when she suddenly fainted and he had to pick her up from the ground. And when she finally woke up, she had no idea what happened. But when the prosecution confronted Frida's testimony about the fainting spells, they said nothing in her medical history proved this ever happened. She never visited the doctor about it, and there was no record of it ever happening. So they believed Lina's own mom was making it up to help save her son-in-law. But why would she do that? The prosecution had a theory for this too. They said Frida had to support Adam because if she didn't, she would probably never see her grandchildren again. That's because if she testified against him, he would never let her see Haley or Jake. So she made everything up about the fainting spells. Here is what prosecutors said about that. What do you think would happen if she didn't support him? Do you think for a second she would be seeing her grandchildren with her husband in Italy and her son in Denmark? She is alone here. This is her tie, the joy of her life. Do you think she's going to go against him? Two of Lina's closest friends also took the stand to testify. The first was Melissa Fedowitz, who reminded the jury that Lina was in perfect health. She said her friend never complained about feeling dizzy or fainting, saying Lina was a 1 in a million, strong, happy, vibrant friend. But the second friend remembered something else. According to Larissa Adamian, Lina did suffer from fainting spells, just like her mom said. She recalled at least one occasion when Lina called her over the phone and said she was sitting on the floor after a severe dizzy spell. So this led the door open for Adam's defense. Maybe the heart condition caused her to become dizzy and faint.
You're listening to this podcast, so I know you've got a curious mind. Here's a helpful fact you may not know yet. Drivers who switch and save with Progressive save over $900 on average. Pop over to Progressive.com, answer some questions, and you'll get a quick quote with discounts that are easy to come by. In fact, 99% of their auto customers earn at least one discount. Visit Progressive.com and see if you can enjoy a little cash back. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and Affiliates. National average 12-month savings of $946 by new customers surveyed who saved with Progressive between June 2024 and May 2025. Potential savings will vary.
Evidence collected from the bathroom was also heavily scrutinized, and most of it favored Adam. Starting with the bathroom itself, there were no signs of a struggle when the first responding officers arrived. If Adam had strangled Lina to death, like the prosecution alleged, you'd expected to see signs of a struggle or altercation, but none existed. There also wasn't any evidence of a cleanup. The bathroom didn't smell like bleach or any other type of cleaner. Up next for analysis was Lina's fingernails. When her body was sent for the autopsy, swabs were taken from underneath her fingernails and nothing was found. So Adam's lawyers argued that if they had been involved in a physical altercation, you would probably expect to find his DNA or skin underneath her fingernails. And if he had strangled her, you'd think she would fight back. She would scratch him, claw at him. She would do whatever she could to break free from being strangled. But when the tissue from underneath her fingernails were tested, it all belonged to her. The trial was full of surprises, but the biggest surprise didn't come from Adam or any of Lina's family members or friends. The biggest shock from the trial came when one of the first responding officers, Anna Howell, testified. Anna Howell was one of the first detectives from the department's crime scene investigation unit to arrive at the house. She was also the person in charge of collecting evidence at the scene. Well, before the trial began, it was discovered that Detective Anna Howell was rumored to be romantically involved with another detective who worked on the case, Detective Anthony Angola, who was also the lead detective assigned to the case. But it wasn't merely the fact that they were rumored to be dating. Anna Howell was also married with 2 children. When Adam's defense attorneys cross-examined Detective Howell about this affair, she initially denied it. She said the two were simply friends and nothing happened. But when the prosecution questioned her, she completely changed her story. She essentially perjured herself and admitted to the affair. So you've got the detective in charge of collecting forensic evidence of having an affair with the case's lead detective. So it shouldn't come as too much of a surprise that the defense argued, what other lies could be possible if Detective Howell lied about the affair? When it came time for closing arguments, the prosecution and defense presented vastly different theories about what killed Lina. The prosecution alleged Adam killed his wife by strangling her to death after getting into an argument. And according to them, the forensic evidence supported that conclusion. At her autopsy, she had several bruises and marks on her neck, consistent with mechanical asphyxiation. Someone or something caused Lina's airway to be shut off, and that someone is Adam Kaufman. When Lina was at her girlfriend's house the day before she died, the friend never recalled seeing the strange marks on her neck. So the prosecution alleged the marks could have only happened that night. Although they couldn't pinpoint a specific motive, they highlighted Adam's bizarre behavior after his wife's death. They reminded the jury that he had a new girlfriend within weeks after Lina died. Before he even knew what killed his wife, he was already dating another woman. Adam's defense had a completely different story to tell the jury during closing arguments. Initially, they thought Lina's spray tan could have caused a deadly allergic reaction. But then they changed their story again. Their forensic experts argued that an undiagnosed heart condition was to blame. They said she probably suffered from a heart attack, collapsed, and hit her neck on the leather magazine rack, causing the bruises. They said the only reason he started dating someone else was because his family insisted. They didn't want him to be alone. They said he wasn't trying to find a new girlfriend. It just happened. Regarding the evidence about the car, the defense argued it wasn't even Adam's car. They said it was Adam's twin brother, Seth's car, who was also there at the house that morning. So you've got a simple case of mistaken identity. The entire trial lasted a little over 4 weeks. If convicted of second-degree murder, Adam looked at spending life behind bars. The jury deliberated the case for 8 hours. It was an agonizing 8 hours for Adam, not knowing how the jury would decide his fate, and it was just as long for the prosecution. What would it be? Whose forensic experts would convince the jury? Was it the prosecution's experts who said Lina was strangled? Or was it the defense's experts who said she had a heart condition? Or maybe it was indeed a deadly spray tan. The fate of those burning questions hung in the balance, left to the hands of the jury. On July 4th, 2012, the jury returned with a verdict. With Adam Kaufman standing next to his defense attorneys in the courtroom, the jury foreman read the verdict: not guilty of all charges, including second-degree murder. After waiting 18 months for the autopsy results and 3 years before going to trial, everything was over and done. Adam Kaufman was officially acquitted of his wife's strange death. But the end of the criminal trial didn't put an end to all the questions in everyone's mind, including the biggest question of all: what happened to Lina? How does a healthy 30-something-year-old mother of 2 suddenly collapse and die in her own bathroom? And despite the acquittal, not everyone believed in Adam's innocence. Even after the jury found him innocent, many people still believe he might have had something to do with her death. But since he was acquitted, prosecutors won't be allowed to bring any additional criminal charges against him under double jeopardy laws. Today, Adam Kaufman is a free man, and immediately after the trial, he returned home to be with his 2 kids. He has maintained his innocence in his wife's death since day 1. Like everyone else, he has no idea what happened to Lina. Maybe it was the spray tan, maybe it was a heart condition, or maybe it was something else. The circumstances surrounding Lina Kaufman's death remain a mystery. It's a mystery that not even forensic experts can't explain or agree on. Some experts say she was murdered, while others say this was a natural death. Even after every expert reviewed the same evidence, none of them can agree on what the evidence means. The passing of Lina Kaufman is truly heartbreaking and continues to perplex even the most knowledgeable in forensic science. A difficult and tragic situation that not even forensic science can explain. To share your thoughts on the story, be sure to follow us on social media at Forensic Tales. And if you want to listen to new episodes early and ad-free, consider signing up for our Patreon at patreon.com/forensictales. You can get early ad-free access to new episodes and monthly full-length bonus episodes for as little as $3 a month. Your support on Patreon directly helps to fund the show's production, research, and editing costs. And as an independent, one-woman podcast, your support truly helps to keep this show going. Forensic Tales is a Rockefeller audio production. The show is written and produced by me, Courtney Fretwell. If you'd like to support the show and help fund research, production, and editing, you can do so with a small monthly contribution on Patreon. Patreon supporters get early access to ad-free episodes and exclusive bonus content. You can learn more at patreon.com/forensictales. And if you enjoy the show, leaving a positive rating or review really helps others discover it. For a full list of sources used in this episode, visit forensictales.com. Thank you for listening, and I'll see you next week. Until then, remember, not all stories have happy endings.
If you like the show, please take a moment to rate, review, and subscribe. It really does help the show to grow. Thank you for listening.